Here with Coach McLaughlin, retired now, formerly with SMU, most recently with SMU, and an inductee into the 2021 Hall of Fame class. First, congratulations on that.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. It's an honor.
And as mentioned, you were most recently with SMU, three NCAA titles there, including an indoor and outdoor title in 1983. Can you share some memories from those SMU teams?
Um, well, the memories, of course, the best parts were winning them. That was the ultimate goal, and we were close a couple of times prior to it. But it's just the memory of winning it. Um, the two outdoor championships are more memorable. The indoor, I think we won the indoor fairly easily. The outdoor, if I remember correctly, it came down to the mile relay
Right.
in places, and we made a little dangerous when our leadoff man pulled up lame at the 200-meter mark. So we might have been 60 yards behind the lead in the 83 outdoors. And then having to finish, I think it was fifth or so to be able to win it. That was 86, I think. I don't know, I'm getting mixed up on the dates, but they both came down to the mile relay. 83 was the one, yes, it was in Houston. And it coming down to the last event, having to win. In that case, we had to finish fifth. In 86, we had to win it.
Correct.
To be able to win the national championship. So to be able to pull that off, of course, there's ups and downs. 86, we left a lot of points on the table. Roy Martin did not have a great day. He did on the relay, but not in his individual events. And defending champion in the 400-meter hurdles jumped the gun. So we gave up some points in the process just to sort of drag it out. And we actually had given it up until I think it was the 5,000 meters, and the world record holder at Washington State didn't do what he was supposed to do, and that put us back into it. So the excitement of the point scoring and keeping an eye on point totals and things of that nature, it's very hard to surpass the anxiety that goes with it. But I still think the NCAA championships, indoor or outdoor, are two of the greatest events internationally. I mean, even the international athletes who come look forward to it. This is a high point of their year. Of course, their national champs mean something, or the world championships,
right,
or whatever. But the NCAA carries a lot of weight with those athletes, and so the memories of them participating. One of the, I think, the most important thing that I remember out of it is not necessarily the championships as they happened, but more so the friendships that have evolved to this day with many, many of the athletes, especially out of the 83 team. I still almost weekly contact with Russell Carter and Michael Carter and Keith Connor and all of those different athletes. And that says a lot about them, but it also says about the relationship we had as a team. It was very close knit. I don't think there's anyone on that 83 team that I don't have contact with at least once a year. And that includes managers and trainers. It was a very, very close knit group. And a lot of the success went with that team concept with them.
Right. And well, that does make it special, no doubt about it. You mentioned Michael Carter and Kevin and Robazine and Robot you mentioned a minute ago. How did coaching guys like these that were world class and others as well, but how did they impact you?
Well, in Roy's case, there was a lot of pressure because he came in with such high expectations.
Right.
And I saw him perform. I saw him, do amazing things in high school, and I saw him do amazing things in college. But there was a tremendous amount of pressure on him, and I probably didn't help it when we went to Indianapolis in '86. Whatever the channel was that was carrying it, NBC or whatever, asked if they could talk to him prior to the meet, and I never should have allowed it. I did, and that just puts more pressure on him because they're talking about, well, can you do this, 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 and this?
Right.
He might not have been concentrating on the same degree, but that would have certainly brought it up. So that's something that I've sort of lived with, that I put too much pressure on him, and I probably should have kept him away from the media. So those are just memories. It's the same thing with Michael. Michael did everything he possibly can do, including have a whole rebuilt knee and come back and winning again, only losing one championship in all of his, that would be 4 years of his 8 options to win the shot. He only lost one, and he lost it on the last throw in Oregon. But some of the things I didn't do right, they can still live with you. Michael did not throw very often the discus. And you got to remember, he was All-American in the discus. He threw 200 feet in the discus, but he didn't really like it. He was a shot putter. And so I never put that much pressure on him to throw it. But when it comes down to the championship in '83, where we're going to be that close, even a point would have made the difference if he had thrown. And the same thing with Robert Weir. Robert Weir came as a hammer thrower. If you've ever remember seeing Robert was a natural discus thrower because he had such a long arms. He was just freakish with his long arms. And he could throw the discus without any problem at 200. He didn't like to throw it. So I didn't really force the issue. I let him be a hammer thrower. And yet again, if those two people had competed in '83 in the other event, they did score some points, but obviously if we had practiced it more, we could have some others. So there's the good points, and then there's mistakes I may have made, but in those two cases, it came out good.
And Roy did get to wear the cowboy hat on the cover of Track and Field News.
He did. He wore it after the celebration. He was running around the field and enjoying the camaraderie of everyone else, but he had the hat on. These days, he wears a Batman suit.
That is true. His alter ego has now switched to Batman. He and Clinton. You began your career coaching-wise at Hope High School in Rhode Island. Did you have ambitions of moving beyond high school and getting into the college ranks, or did it just happen?
Well, it just happened. The way it worked out, it was just purely coincidental the way it happened. But I had in the back of my mind that I'd like to take a run at it. I, at the same time, was coaching at Hope. I was also coaching at a junior college. And so I got the idea that, maybe I'd want to go that direction. But what happened was Hope High School is right across the street from Brown University.
Okay.
And the coach at that time, and I'm pulling a blank when you ask me, I can't pull out the name right now, but he was a very famous field event coach. He's deceased at this point. He was actually John Thomas's coach way back, the 7-foot high jumper. And so I used to go after they would practice at night. I would practice in the afternoon with the high school kids. And then I'd go up and just listen to him or talk with him and learn, because he was really the most knowledgeable person at that point that I knew I could have contact. I mean, there were other coaches around. And when you say that, I'm trying to pull names out and I can't pull them all out. But there were coaches in the New England area that I would listen to as they, give a clinic or something like this. But this guy was right in my backyard, so I could go almost any night to their practice sessions. And I went up there, and the head coach at that time was a guy by the name of Ivan Fuqua. He ran in the Berlin Olympics, and he was a gold medalist on the 4x4, I believe. And he was an old timer, and his other guy was an old timer who didn't come all the time to practice. So Ivan would get mad at him and go try to find him and get him to go to practice. And he wouldn't show up, and then he'd show up for a week, and then he'd not show up. So that one of these nights I walked into their track where they were practicing, and he says, "So-and-so's not here again. You want a job?" And I said, hell yeah. So I became the assistant coach for throws at Brown University. And,
well, there you go.
And that's how I got into the college, just being at the right place at the right time. And he knew that I spent a lot of time with his then assistant coach, but he knew that I had some knowledge, I guess, and he offered me opportunity. And then I went from Brown to Cornell and then to UTEP. And of course, UTEP was very influential, working with Ted Banks. And in my tenure there were 7 national championships. I was the assistant coach, but they had 7 national championships in that period of time. But of course, they were Ted's teams; they weren't mine.
Right.
We always had a competition between the field events and the running events, and we held our own, but neither one of us won it alone.
As far as events, is it safe to say that the throws are your first love?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Except for the javelin, I don't like the javelin. I have to be able to feel the event, and I could never get a feel for the javelin. I still watch videos of the javelin just to see if I could ever, what did I miss in the javelin that I just couldn't pick up to get the feel. If I couldn't feel the event, whenever the throw is actually happening, I would be able to lift off the ground and when I expected them to. I sort of, would jump in that moment where they were supposed to explode. But I couldn't ever get it for the javelin. But for the throws, yes, without a doubt.
Fair enough. Now, you've mentioned a few names. Who are some of your other mentors that have helped to shape your coaching philosophy when you became the coach at SMU?
Well, the first one was my high school coach at Classical High School in Providence, Rhode Island.
Okay.
Right across the city from Hope High School. And his name was Al Morrow. He was a discus thrower and football player who graduated from Boston College. And he had a theory that a track coach was a track coach. He was a running coach. And he worked primarily with track events. And there were very, very few coaches that majored in thinking anyway on the throws. And he did well in a small Class B school in Rhode Island by just always having a shot putter, always having a discus thrower, always having a hammer thrower. And, that would give him enough points, and he had enough depth in those events that he'd always, score points in the field events, the throw events. So I followed along with that concept all my life is you show up for the 100 and there's going to be whatever number, there's going to be X. But if you show up for the shot, there's going to be much less than X. There's the competition to score a point in the hammer has always been much easier than scoring a point in the 100 or the 200 or the mile. So my thinking has always been go to the events in which there's less knowledge among the coaches. And I think everyone would admit, at least back in that time, it's changed now, is that there were not, Southwest Conference didn't have a hammer in the Southwest Conference Championship
Hmm.
at that time. And it was an event in the NCAA. I begged for it every year, but no one would ever vote it in. The coaches wouldn't vote it in. They know I had 3 or 4 of them. So I wanted to concentrate. I wanted to win a national title. That was my goal. So to concentrate on hammer throwers, because I believe in 83, we went 1, 2, 4, and 6 in the weight throw indoors and almost had enough points at that point to win the meet.
Oh, wow.
And that was, you add Michael on top of that, and you know, you're not in bad state without even having a runner. But again, that's talking about Michael Carter, Robert
Right.
Whitmer, Richard Olson, Keith Connor in the triple.
Mm-hmm.
So those would be, but my mentor would be Al Morrow. I thought an awful lot, still do to this day, of Dan Paff,
Okay. Yeah.
Tom Telez,
Mm-hmm.
technical coaches, Art Venegas, throw coach.
Mm-hmm.
Art Venegas at the time I was coaching was the only other head coach. He was at UCLA. That was a field event coach, a throw coach.
Okay.
I don't know exactly how many there are right now, but most of your national programs are coached by a head coach by a running coach.
True.
Mm-hmm. So it was unusual to have a head coach who's a field event oriented person.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
It's hard. In fact, now that you mention it, it is hard to think of a head coach who is really the throws coach as well. I mean, Stephen F. Austin with Coach Olson.
Yeah.
He's also the throws coach, but none other come to mind off the top of my
I
head.
think one of the Georgia schools or one of those schools now has a throw coach. But other than that, I don't know of any. I don't know all the coaches today.
Right.
But I still talk to Robert a lot and ask him that question, Robert Weir. And he's at Missouri now as an assistant coach, but he still says it's very hard for a field event coach to become a head coach. There's very few of them.
Mm.
Now, Robert has the most outstanding memory. He'd be able to tell me who they are right now if I call them up, and he'd list them all off and how long they've been there. But there's not many, hasn't been many.
And finally, Coach, tell us your thoughts on now being inducted officially as of next Friday. Granted, it's a strange circumstance with Zoom, but we're going to bring everybody back together in 22, both classes. Your thoughts on being inducted into the Texas Track and Field Hall of Fame?
Well, you know, I'm a long way away from having coached. I haven't coached since 88. And I think it was 88, 87, one of those years. So when you get these awards and someone remembers you, it's just fantastic that you haven't totally disappeared back into the Netherlands as such. And so, yes, it's always an honor. And I'm not a Texan by any stretch, but to be inducted into the Texas Hall of Fame is something. My language gives me away, my tone. So no, it's truly an honor, and I'm very, very thankful for it, and I appreciate any part you had in it.
Coach, we appreciate your time, and like we mentioned, we look forward to seeing you and those that want to honor and congratulate you in person in 2022.
I look forward to it very much.
Thank you, sir. Stay safe, and we'll talk with you soon.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye now.